welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins. Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode here. Man, I'm excited to be talking with a longtime friend, is a practicing nurse anesthetist, who also is a licensed real estate agent. He's done some private money lending and currently owns a couple long-term rentals in the state of Michigan. Mr. Travis Lilley, how is it going, man?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me, Brett. Appreciate it.
I was so excited to get the chance to, chat with you and kind of touch on how our journeys crossed earlier on in my investing career as well, too. So we'll touch a little bit on that and kind of get into your path, too. So through medicine and now where you're at. And before we started, we were talking a little bit before the show on enjoying where we're at and, kind of like finding that pocket of, what is happiness? Where am I at when that happens? And, we were talking about, well, when I get this or when I get to this point, and now I think we're both sitting in this point, Travis, where it's like, we're happy now, right? We're happy with where we're at, right?
Absolutely. I think especially over the past few years, just getting my life in alignment of where I want to be. And, that's where I think I'm at right now. Right. Coming out of COVID, just, working crazy amount of hours, working too much. It was my own fault. I, put myself on the schedule too much. And, in my hospital job and, finally, getting to the point where it's like, all right, take a step back from that a little bit, and start doing something a little bit different, something that maybe, touches different muscle groups than my medical hat has.
Yeah.
That's what's been really, really fun especially over the last year or so.
And one thing that you've mentioned to me that, and I know as well, for me is your wife, your beautiful, wonderful wife who's helped you kind of like transition and make this shift in your life. And also you've got two youngins, right?
One youngin.
One baby. Okay.
Yeah, we got a 5-year-old, and Ashton and I have a 5-year-old, and so he's awesome. He keeps us busy. Activities for doing T-ball now. It's just it's a blast. It's a blast. But Ashley's been very she's been an integral part of this journey. Especially the real estate license part of things. As far as being an agent, I still work 3 days a week at the hospital. They're long days. So I really need her around, and she's super helpful. She really kind of does a lot of the behind the scenes stuff for us. Keeps things in order. She's way more detail oriented than I am.
Yeah.
So we're a good mix together. She also has kind of taken over, managing our properties, both the construction part of things and the management part of things. So I think sometimes she doesn't realize how important she is and how great she is at her job. But she's very, very important. I know that neither of my two, the agent part or the investment part wouldn't be where they are now without her.
Very interesting. So make sure you tell her that all the time, and make sure you tell her to listen to the podcast and say, hey, I got something for you to listen to. Hey, Travis, let's jump back and tell me just a little bit about medicine for you, your journey, like, what you got started and kind of like where you're at now in medicine.
Yeah. So I started, I played football in high school, undersized linebacker. It wasn't big enough, got beat up. My shoulder got kind of messed up.
I always tell myself that my heart wasn't big enough whenever I go to reference that, because I've told the same story before.
Yeah. My heart was plenty big, but my body
wouldn't take it. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I got beat up pretty good. So messed my shoulder up pretty good in high school. had surgery on my shoulder, had a pain block done before the surgery, had the surgery done, and, no pain. It was just the most amazing experience that I could ever imagine. Also, my uncle was a nurse anesthetist. And so I kind of saw the lifestyle that he lived, and I kind of put the two together and said, hey, this is something I'd love to do. Did my, got my bachelor's degree, worked out in Phoenix for a little while, which is kind of also where my real estate journey began, kind of on accident. And then, so worked there for 3 years. I went back to school in Tennessee for a couple more years, 3 years. And then been in Kalamazoo for almost 10 years now. Still love it. Still really love doing my anesthesia. I found that balance, like we've kind of been talking about, found that balance of last summer I went through a phase where I didn't love it for a while. I hated it, and just hated how much I was working. And but since the first of the year, I've really cut back on how much I've worked, and I love it again. And kind of as the more I step back, the more I remember how much I love it.
It's very, very interesting. So it sounds like through your experience in sports and your journey into procedures there on yourself, along with that family relationship of experience is kind of what drew you into medicine. And then the path from Arizona back to school in Tennessee, and then you mentioned Kalamazoo. Just want to let everybody know it's Kalamazoo, Michigan, and that's where we met. Yep. And we'll touch on that just in a second. But I'm also thinking, so you put people to sleep for a living, and now we're on a podcast, and hopefully we want to do the opposite. We don't want to put them to sleep, right?
Love it.
Yeah. So
hope I'm more interesting here than at work.
Right. Yeah. We're not going to start counting backwards from anything, so everything's going to be fine. But in all seriousness, you're a little nervous to come on to the show, being that you've not done podcasts before, and don't worry, like a lot of physicians that we talk with are the same way. And one of the lines that we're crossing, Travis, is we're talking about things that don't often get talked about, and stepping across that line and start talking about some of these things. So I just want to congratulate you for coming on the show, and thank you for your time and sharing some of these stories. So
yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
And I was also telling you that journey of, when I get this or when I get there, then I feel like I'll be able to do that. But enjoying the moment and being present now is the important part. And sharing where we're at now is the perfect reason why the listeners listen to the show and listen to some of these experiences. So with that journey in medicine, we've talked about now with the kind of shift here in the last year of getting to kind of where you want to be at in life. Obviously, there's always challenges, right? We were talking about, man, I think it should always get easier. At some point, it should lighten up, right? It's not all sunshine and rainbows, no matter what anybody says. Yeah. So there's some challenges here. But in the real estate world, what happened in Phoenix? Like, what was your introduction into real estate?
So I moved to Phoenix in 2009, bought a house in 2010. So bottom of the market, house. I think the house that I bought was originally like 290. It had sold for or something like that. And I bought it for 95,000 or something like that. Like totally great shape, like nothing wrong with it. Pool, nothing, like I didn't put any work into it. I painted it. And so bought that. At the time, everyone was telling me, what are you doing? You're crazy. Why are you buying this house? And I'm like, I can't rent. This house is going to cost me like $1,500 to rent it. My mortgage is going to be like $500. Like I don't. Yeah. And at the time, I'm 20 years old. I'm just getting out of nursing school. I'm trying to like figure things out. And, looking back, I should have bought 10 of those things.
Everything you can. Yeah.
And, not even for the appreciation that was going to happen, but just straight up the cash flow that I would have created on that.
Yeah.
So it was one of the first times in my life where everyone was kind of going against me and telling me that I was wrong.
Who was that? And just help me understand, like, who in that circle is around you? Is it family? Is it colleagues?
I would say mostly family. Just kind of thinking, hey, and it was out of love. I mean, they love and they didn't want me to make a mistake. But it was influential people in my life that, just, again, they loved me and they wanted the best for me. And
those family members, I'm definitely not pointing any fingers. I'm just drawing out the similarity that I'm sure a lot of listeners will have. Same way to me. I just didn't have the right it's the right people. It's not that they're the wrong people for relationships or family, but it's not the right people when it comes to investing in financial stability, financial future kind of piece. So these influential people probably didn't invest in real estate.
No, they did not. And, we have people in our family that invest in real estate, but for some reason they just thought it was, and I don't know if it was because I was kind of between stages. I was a nurse at that time, but I knew I wanted to go back to anesthesia school. And I think that there was a fear for them that this was going to get me caught up and get me hung up and kind of, the eye on the prize.
Slow the path. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that was their fear. And it was like, hey, you're only going to live there for a year or two. Like, why are you wasting your time and energy and money on something that is, going to depreciate or whatever, whatever their thought was. I don't know what their thought was, but yeah, and, now looking back, I'm like, just understanding the fundamentals of real estate. It's like,
jackpot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then that one, and then did you end up selling that then when you came back to Tennessee?
So even then, I did well. I mean, I think I made money on it. But even then people were like, hey, you should just hold on to it and rent it, which, even then would have been a great rental.
Yeah.
But I did sell it. At the time I was thinking, I'm going to anesthesia school. I'm not gonna be able to have time to focus on this, which may or may not have been true. So I sold it, took a lot of that money, put it towards school, which again was probably an okay thing to do, but looking back, it's tough. So sold it. But while I was living there as well, I kind of I was house hacking as well. I didn't realize I was house hacking. This was before, at least I knew about Bigger Pockets.
Right.
But we had a guy like a friend of mine who was renting it for, renting a room for $500 or something like that. So he was paying almost my whole mortgage. Again, I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. I just was doing it because it made sense.
That's awesome. Yeah. And the hindsight is always the tough part too, Travis, because then, when we look back, we want to kick ourselves, but at the same time, when we look, it's the opportunity to grow as well too. So anytime we look back on those instances, always find the good and focus on the good, because then you can change that, what opportunity may have been lost. Now I know that. So that's value in itself. So
that sounds like my crypto and stock market investing advice right there for myself. Like, I'm horrible at it. I've lost a lot of money doing it. I'm like, I got to get out of that game. Get into what I know.
Man, that's one thing that I've never touched. One shiny thing that I've never touched is the Bitcoin stuff. And I guess my passion and my focus is I live, breathe, eat, sleep real estate. And that's all that I do. And that's where besides entrepreneur aspect of businesses around real estate, that's where all of my money goes. So
I didn't put a ton in there, but enough just to remind me, this is what you do. This isn't what you know. Don't do it. Don't do it.
Which is great. It reminds me of a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. Have you read that?
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah. So the story of, when he gave, I'm paraphrasing and maybe wrong in the numbers and situations, but I believe he gave his son a certain amount of money. And he says, you got this time frame, and you come back to me with this time frame with whatever, the same amount of money or more, then that shows me that you are worthy of the inheritance or whatever. And the first thing he did is he went and gave it to somebody who had a great idea but didn't know what they were doing. So it's like thinking about me. If you want to invest in Bitcoin, I'm not the person that you want to talk to about that, right? Very cool. So you got back to Tennessee then, and then to finish up school, it sounds like. How did you end up in Kalamazoo, Michigan?
So I'm from South Bend, Indiana. So this was went to school in Tennessee just to go to school. Like that was why I went there. This was kind of coming home for my wife and I. She's from South Bend as well. So we're about 60 minutes from home. And honestly, we've thought about going back, but at this point we love Kalamazoo. So we're here.
Very cool. Yeah, I've actually grew up Bridgman, which is just near there, and Bridgman, Michigan. And my parents live. The back property line of my parents' place is Niles, Indiana. So we're like 10 minutes from Notre Dame. Oh yeah. That airport too, by the way, is awesome. Like the South Bend airport is awesome. So if you're flying into anywhere around this area of Southwest Michigan. South Bend is just so easy. I mean, they have like 10 gates, maybe. There's no letters or anything. It's just 10 gates or something like that.
Super easy. Easy.
And it's surprising how many people fly into there. So we're in Kalamazoo, and I believe that we met there was like this REI kind of meetup, real estate investor meetup thing that a certain investor was doing. And what he would do is walk people through some of his properties, right? Mm-hmm. And it was like before, I remember seeing like the before properties. And these were rough properties. And in one of the areas in Kalamazoo that, I've flipped a couple of houses there, but it's just a rough area, rough houses. And we meet. What were you doing at these meetings?
At that time, I knew I loved real estate. I knew I wanted something more. And I think I had analysis paralysis. It was probably about 2016, 2017. I had just paid off most of my student loan. I think all of my loans at that point. So I starting to kind of have some more money to do something with. But it was like, okay, I need to figure out what it is that I want to do. And, I had started probably before that learning about burring properties. And
Burr, right? BRRR. Yeah. Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat.
Correct. Which I love the thought of that. And even back then I loved the thought of that. I'm super frugal. I'm super cheap in everything I do. And so we're at those properties, seeing those houses. And it probably hindered me a little bit at the time. I was afraid. I mean, I was working 60 hours a week or whatever I was working, 5, 6, 7 days a week. And so I was starting to realize, hey, I'm probably going to have a lot of capital to do something with, but don't know what I'm going to do with it, because I want to buy these properties, but I don't know how to do this. And, so, I think we met. And at that time, I didn't have a whole lot. And I think my buddy and I actually kind of put some money together. We're able to help fund one of your smaller deals. And I think it was only I think you were trying to get over for a month or something like that, because it was a quick deal. Yeah. And I think I put in like $10,000 or something like that. And I made $500 or something. And it was a short deal. And then from then on, you found another property that we invested in. And again, it was super easy. Like, it was just like, hey, like, I can do this. Like, he just needs money. I write the check. And one of the properties was on the way to work. So I would stop almost every day. Any day I worked there, I'd stop, look through the windows. And,
oh man, I think I just remembered that project.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And it took a little while. But it was good for it. It was good for me, because I'm sitting there watching this happen, and I'm realizing that, like, going back to our sports references, like, I'm an athlete. I want to be in the game. I don't want to be sitting on the bench watching the game happen. And, I want to be in the game. And, so that kind of got me on the bench, but it didn't get me in the game. It was easy money. I mean, it was super easy, but I wanted something more, and I needed something more. And, so that was like my first actual step on purpose to invest in real estate. From then on, my wife and I invested in a, a property that needed total rehab. We had a partner at the time. And again, this is kind of another project that we wouldn't have taken on if it weren't for having help. And, since then that partnership is kind of, we've separated a little bit. But we needed that. We needed that step. We needed baby steps. We needed one step, next step, next step. So we purchased that property with that partner. And I realized, again, like we need to be the one in the game. We need to be the one doing things. We were kind of being lazy, I think, just personally being lazy with it. So we needed to step up. We needed to make changes to grow ourselves, our business, but also ourselves. So during that split, that was, for us, it was what we needed. It was what we needed at that time. But we also needed that partner. I'm very, very thankful for that partner, because without that partner, I don't think we'd be where we are now. We needed the action. We needed to do action. And that's what we needed at that time.
So when we met, the first investment strategy that you were talking about is what I call private money lending. Mm-hmm. And in that scenario, it's a debt relationship where you lend money to an investor. And if you do it right, if you recall the paperwork that we executed, there's a promissory note, a mortgage, and then you were listed as an additional payee on the insurance as well too. So those three things mitigate or not reduce. So it's adjusted risk, right? And the returns available obviously aren't going to be close as if you were in the game, like you say. But it's a great introduction in. And believe it or not, Travis, that's one of the very first relationships of how my business, Physician Wealth System, started, is that relationship, because seeing that your interest in real estate and just that time piece not working, it was not the last time that I heard that in my investing career as well too. So a great piece of information to share is that first step into you, right? Dipping your toe in the water. And how did you pick, like, I was just some random guy at this meetup. What was that like for you, if you can recall? Because a lot of what I hear in investing for physicians is kind of like tag along investing or crowd investing. Once this person does it, okay, it must be all right, so I'm going to do it too, whether it's financial advisors, Bitcoin, or whatever. It's kind of like that tag along investing. So how were you, or what did that feel like when you saw me, and what made you feel like, hey, I should try this?
For me, it was that we were in the meeting together. You're at that meeting with me. I'm able to go to the property and look at that property that we're talking about. The property that the first one was kind of small, and it was like, all right, small amount of money, like pretty low risk. But the bigger one at that time was a lot of money for me at that point. So I was able to see that property, and I was able to say, okay, if everything goes haywire, what am I going to do? Like, then I just take the property over or something. Like, I figured that something like that would happen. Probably should have done a little more research, but
you're correct. Yeah, you'd have to foreclose on the property, right? The note, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, now I assume the property. Like, worst case scenario is now I have that property. Now it's my headache to clean up and take care of and figure out what I'm going to do with it. To me, that just felt safer. And I don't know, to me, it was just safe. It was something that I could drive by, watch every day. If it was foreclosed on, it comes straight back to me on the bank. And at that point I was almost ready to buy something. I think personally, I was close, I think. So if anything happened, it was like, whatever, I'll just take it over and take care of it myself, kind of a thing.
So that deal, so I smiled the first time we started talking about it. That is chalked up as one of the worst deals I've ever done in my entire life. But the cool thing I thought about that prior to getting to chat with you on the show today was I did exactly what I said I was going to do. And that's one of the most important parts, now, of working with a partner is they do what they say they're going to do. And that's really important, especially when you lay that amount of money on the line. and making sure that you not only get it back, but you get the return that you need. And in this journey, you got to see some of the headaches that I was dealing with. And I tell everybody out there, this is one of the worst deals I've ever done. So this will be entertaining. This house was purchased. I bought that house for $2,000. $2,000. And that's a lot more money than what you lent, right? So because there was a massive renovation that went on this house. The gentleman that was this house, it was on a tax foreclosure list. And, we're direct to seller, we're marketing, we get it in contract to purchase. And this guy, I think it was it was within a week. Like we moved fast on this thing because the whole scenario, the area, I just didn't know what was going on. And I think we closed on that Friday. He went to jail that night. So I ended up paying the back taxes of $3,000. So this house, here we are for $5,000. And this house is, wow, it needed a lot of work, right? Oh, yeah. And it was one of those things where, man, it's just I kept getting nailed by the contractors. And man, there was just so many things. And then you watch this from the outside, like seeing these things, like, what's going on here, Brett? And I'm like, oh man. It was a crazy ride for sure. But we finished it up. We fixed it up. It sold. And, we moved on to the next one. And for me as an investor, that area, I had done that. I had 2 houses in that neighborhood in Kalamazoo. I won't touch that area ever again, just because of the stress that it put on me. We made some money there, but it was just like, it was so stressful. Like the people, the neighbors, I mean, nobody, it was just like getting crapped on every day. It felt like, Yeah.
So we have like a very different, I guess I have a different feel for that area. That was maybe the first house that my wife and I got to walk into together that we were changing. Like we were changing part of that neighborhood and walking through it. Like, it was in horrible shape. It was in horrible shape. And,
it was a condemned drug house, basically. Yeah.
And my wife and I loved walking through it. It was like, wow, what's this going to be? And then, when it's, when it got finally done, like walking through it again, being like, wow. And I still drive by it every time I drive by it. I look at it and think, wow, I was part of this process.
Yeah.
And for me, it like, that's kind of the business model that we've taken on a little bit is, taking on those projects. And, so it's funny, like, one man's trash, another man's treasure. Yeah. Like, that's the way that I view that property. And we did make, it was easy money, and it was, for me, it was easy money. And, maybe we both went into that deal or left that deal with different feelings about that area, just because of our different perspectives on it.
100%. Yeah. Living like the stress of the area, and just, I don't know, man, it's just one of those, I've invested all over the place. Like, I'm excited. I think today is going to be the day where we actually get our first one in Hawaii today. So
nice.
I'm excited about that. But in all the areas, man, that one alone, in our perspective of it, the stress and just how we're treated. And when I'm saying how we're treated, I'm treated like by the people in the neighborhood, just stuff getting stolen, broken into, filling up my dumpsters, and it's just like, it is insane. It is insane. But the same way, I've done that all over the place, where we buy not only crappy houses, Travis, but crappy situations. We've done a lot where we've acquired properties from the seller where they feel like their hands are tied, right? There's tenants, there's horrible tenants in place, squatters basically. And through our experience and our processes, we're able to help them out, acquire the property, get them out of there, and then renovate the property and get that next family in there. So, I still share that feeling with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. So we've got that one property that you've talked about, still smiling about that one project we were just talking about. We've got the property you're talking about in the partnership that kind of it was necessary to take that step for you. But what was your biggest takeaway in that partnership? And what are some things that you would do differently in the next partnership?
Ask that question again.
Yep. So the partnership that allowed you to make this step in your investing career, it happened, and it feels like it changed since it happened. So the question is, what have you learned from it? In doing so, what would you do differently in the next partnership?
I'm very, very hesitant on partnerships now. It makes me very, very anxious because of that, finding the balance of what is this person doing? What is this person doing? What happens if they don't take care of their business that they're supposed to be taking care of? And to be fair, my partner did a lot of things very, very well. He did a lot of it very, very well. And I think for me, it was more of a personal growth. At that point in my life, it was, we foster kids as well. And at that point we were super busy with it. And I don't think my wife could do what she does now. So I think we needed that at that time. Looking back, I don't think we could have done it a different way. And again, he did well. He helped us quite a bit. But kind of moving forward, it was, we needed to grow, and we needed to step up, and we needed to do more. And so that's kind of why we went our separate ways, was so that we could grow and like be here. I don't think I'd be on this podcast today if I was still doing that. I wouldn't have gotten my license. I wouldn't have, learned how to hire people. Like, we're still learning that stuff. There's so much we're still learning.
Oh yeah.
And when we had a partner, it was just hand it off and let them do it. And you don't see the behind the scenes. You don't see how long it takes to do something. It's just easy to, blame that person. And, so I'm not a huge fan of partnerships anymore, even though it got the ball moving for me, and it got things moving in the right direction for my wife and I. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, I see so many of my colleagues in the investment world, like the ones who really take off and, have that integral partnership with somebody. They found the yin to their yang, that kind of thing. And, I've had partnerships through the years as well too. And just the best partnership that I've ever had and that I ever will have, you have it as well too. It's called a marriage.
Yep.
And yes, those, even when I've talked about this, several different places, but it's like, if I could find that partnership that's looked at as similar, it looked at similarly as a marriage would be, it's like, that's kind of like that balance that really takes. But it's also the easy path, right? It's the easy path. It's here, you go take care of this. Here, you go take this. So it doesn't really push you.
Yeah. I think it takes a lot of, it's hard. It is hard. I mean, marriage is hard. Mm-hmm. Partnerships are hard.
Yeah.
And put them together, and it's very challenging. For us, I'm enjoying this challenge. It is a challenge. I mean, there's things that, like, she doesn't want to do, and I'm like, I can't do this right now. I can't. I'm going to be at work 3 days in a row for 12 hours a day. When would you like me to call people to get this taken care of? Like, I can't do that. Yeah. And she understands that. And I think that's, for us, that's where I'm fortunate. She knows when she needs to do something, and then she's learning now to kind of tell me when it's my turn to do something as well. Yeah. There's certain things that I love doing, and there's certain things that she loves doing. And, for us, it's also another, just a point of conversation. Like, it's been enjoyable. Like, sometimes she says we talk about it a little too much, but I love it. Like, I can't stop. And, it's something that we share that it's like, it's kind of that team approach again. Like we're on the same team. We're battling for the same thing. And, that's the way I see it. I don't think she sees it that way sometimes, but that's the way I see it, is like, we're in this together, like let's win this game or whatever it is.
So now you say you've got 2 rentals, right? Long-term rentals.
We have 3.
I love the gaze up. And for the listeners who are not watching the video, the eyes go up into the thinker part. Like, how many is it? Yeah, it's that too. And I always remember like that point where somebody asked me like, how many houses do you have? And like, let me check the sheet. It's just one of those things. Like, okay, it's a number that I don't necessarily keep track of off the top of my head. But okay, so there's 3, and they're all long term, correct?
They're all long term. So we have 2 that are completely ready to go. There are people living in them. We just purchased one, a duplex, probably 3 months ago now. It's kind of along those lines. It needs rehabbed, but we have a tenant living in one part of it, and we're trying to do the best for her. We're trying to help her, but at the same time help the property. The house needs a roof. It needs stuff. I mean, it just needs a lot of work. And of course, we want to get someone in that other half of it. So this is our first one that we're really taking on totally solo. And it's a learning process for both of us, my wife and I. There's a lot of learning going on. We're actually getting ready to do a cash out refi on one of the other properties as well. So once we do that, we'll probably, I'm hoping within the next few months of purchasing another one as well. But I'm not in a super big hurry just because we've got this other one that we've still got to kind of get going.
Very cool. So it sounds to me like you have 4 units.
Correct.
4 doors. And do you have like a buying criteria, a buying window that you're looking at as far as the cash invested and then the return you're expecting?
I'm still trying to like lock that down a little bit. Mm-hmm. We're definitely doing value add type properties. We're not really buying stuff that's turnkey. Kind of that magical number for me is like a 2% deal. That's kind of where I'm for. Hard to find still.
That's like all in done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what Travis is saying about the 2% deal is, typically you'll hear like a 1% rule. And that's if you take the monthly gross, income, the monthly gross rent, and you divide it by the all in, cost, right? So if it's $1,500 gross monthly rent and I have $150,000 into this deal, that's a 1%, right? If you divide that out, it's 0.01. And what you're saying is 0.02 is the target that you're shooting for, which is a smoking deal.
It is. And with that comes headaches. With that comes problems. Yep. And it's what we're signing up for. And this is kind of my goal to pursue financial independence. And the hope is that in a few years, I've kind of hit that number where, I'm financially free. And my life probably won't be a whole lot different. I'll probably still keep working. I'll probably still be a real estate agent and we'll probably still be buying. But at that point, my criteria might switch a little bit. It might be a little bit more turnkey type properties.
Yeah.
But right now where I am, I just want to put myself in a spot where, this is kind of my life insurance. This is kind of my, whatever I want to do with life. Like if I'm tired and I just want to relax a little more, get back to work a little bit more. So yeah, that's kind of the goal right now.
Perfect. And for the listeners out there, this 2% target is definitely possible. And the kind of headaches that you're signing up for, it is because in that price range, in that value add range, not only does the total number have to be lower, but the rent is typically lower too. So the tenant class changes a little bit. So I've got properties on both ends of the spectrum. One of the first ones that I ever did, you actually may have lent on this one, was one in Niles, Michigan. I purchased the house for $18,000. and we spent $15,000 renovating it, and that house kicks out $900 a month rent. I've since then have refinanced, and that's what we call the true cash out. So I've pulled more money out than what I had in the property, turning it into an infinite return. Even though when we were managing the property, we have property managers now. When we were managing property, I can do my best to filter and get the right tenant in there. I cannot control what's going on around that property. So if there's slumlords on either side of me with drug dealers, and I can't control that. So that's one of the headaches that we've found. Like my systems and my processes can provide a great home with a great family, great tenant. But the one thing that I've struggled with in that higher percentage rate is what's happening next door, man. It's just a struggle. But the money's great, right? That infinite return puts a smile on everybody's face.
Yes. And that's something we've kind of chosen that fits our model. Like, we would rather have especially this is kind of our base. This is kind of our base of the pyramid, and we're building that base off of this. And as we go on, like I said, things might change a little bit, but this is the base. And my wife kind of likes to manage this stuff. She kind of enjoys the process of it. I thought I was going to love managing, and I realized that's not my cup of tea. She still needs my help on some stuff, but she's way better at it than me.
So I feel the same way. And, the kind of like the base of the pyramid thing, I think is a great analogy for that, just because, that's exactly what we did. And I still, even no matter, like right now we're looking at capturing some equity and switching some stuff around, doing 1031s and stuff. But, that house is still it's literally like a little cash cow. All it does is just give us money, at some point, some of the capital expenditures are going to creep back up, and maybe that's the time to sell it then, but it's still that base of the pyramid. Do you guys are managing these units yourself? Are you using any software to keep things straight?
It's funny because we're just like the last year we've kind of started really taking over all of it. And we started with a really simple, something called Rental Hero or something like that. This is my wife's part of the game. She's doing most of that. But as we're growing and as we're talking about, buying, the second one within 6 months, it's getting bigger. And so I think we're going to head over to QuickBooks. I think that's our next move. But this is definitely her realm of things.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we'll probably end up. And now that we're small, it's probably going to be easier to do something like that now, as opposed to, when we get a little bit further along.
Yeah. QuickBooks Online is a platform, and through the years, I tell everybody I'm streamlined right now, and I've never been as happy.
Yeah.
There was a point where we had 13 employees, and we were paying lots and lots and lots of money to accountants. We went with regional accountants, which are massive firms, local accountants. But when we switched to QuickBooks Online, it opened up. It puts a smile on my face still. So it's definitely a platform that I think would be helpful for you. And even finding the right VA would be really helpful for you as well too. Managing stuff, especially freeing up some of your time. There is a platform called Appfolio. I've not used it. I know a lot of property managers use it. And until you get to a certain number of units or doors, that's when that really helps you track. It helps you communicate. Before then, we used, it used to be apartment.com. I think it changed, or it was also another good platform, allowed us to advertise a market, would spit it out to the other platforms. We could communicate, we could track communications, which is huge. If you need a repair, I'm going to get that done. I can track when it's done. The one thing that I will kind of just make mention of for you guys in the self-management is track everything. Because when things don't go right and you have to go to court, you don't want to be the person in court that doesn't have, when you talk to somebody, what decisions were made, what money was collected. You need ledgers, like you need all of this stuff. And when you are in court and you don't have this information, man, it does not feel good. So track often, track everything, 100%.
Yeah. That's great advice. Awesome. You said virtual assistant. Do you, what type of stuff, like at this point in the game, what type of stuff?
Everything that should be the first hire to get your life back, man.
So I don't, like, what do they do though? Like I've talked to Ashley about it and I'm like, but I don't even know, like, I don't know what to tell her what they would do. So
you start off extremely minimal, low risk, low responsibility, low access. Number one is emails. That's a great platform. So, the email thing, and we use Slack as another platform that we use. So I don't ever check my emails anymore. The VAs will go through. So that way, if it's, if it's spam or if it's something that doesn't need my eyes, or if I'm just copied on something, I don't even see that stuff. I only get shown things that are pertinent and they can't answer for me. And you'll be surprised how much easier that makes you, how much easier it is to focus on specific tasks where I'm not checking emails 15 times a day. Right. Yeah. So that's a great beginning spot. But then just think about, okay, if you and your wife sat down and wrote down a list of things that you do daily, weekly, and monthly. And then after you write that list out, I want you to write out the value that you place on those items. What's a $5 an hour job? What's a $10 an hour job? What's a $100 an hour job? What's a $1,000 an hour job? So start off with those $5 an hour jobs. And you're going to start seeing, it's a communication here. It's a reminder of a lease agreement. Oh, there's a repair request or change your filter. There's certain things that you can start off that will lighten things up. And then soon as you see this light come on, there's going to be so many things.
Yeah.
Makes sense?
That does. That's a great idea. And the email thing, like that, that's where it makes sense. Cause like I was on vacation last week and I do really good at putting my phone almost completely away.
Yep.
And but I come back and there's like,
it's a mess, man.
Oh yeah. It's a total mess. And
then you find the right one. Email, scheduling, like you say, you went on vacation, scheduling where you like to stay. And then the other thing is creating SOPs, standard operating procedures. So every time you do something, there should be, if there's a purpose, there's a process, what I say. They're creating this. So that should be the last time that you ever do it because there's a procedure for it now.
Yeah.
That's everything from the rental properties, things around the house, scheduling lawn maintenance. I mean, renewing rental certificates. Like there's so many things that VA can do. And you also keep in mind, VAs will range depending on where and how you're locating them. I know it's crazy when you start thinking about this. It should be around the $2.50 to $3 an hour.
Yeah.
And you think about that money, say in the Philippines, that money on a consistent basis would qualify them for a home loan. So it's just the difference in the value of money in the different areas, but it's just a big piece,
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. I mean, even yesterday, like, I don't know that a VA could do this, but like getting my credentialing done for one of the hospitals I work at, it just like, it just drove me nuts. It was like, my mind doesn't have energy to figure out my password, to log in, to check boxes, to like, I was just like, that's a moment where I'm just like, I love my job too much, but like, I would eventually figure it out. But like, these are the moments where it's like, man, I could just like let this anesthesia thing go. Now, I love the anesthesia. I just hate the stuff, like the stuff with it. And that's a perfect example.
Yeah, 100%. And that is something that the VA would handle. Obviously, you've got to find it's a relationship, man. You got to find the right one. And build that trust, build that responsibility. Start little, keep focused. One of the platforms we use is called LastPass. And that's where all the passwords go in there. And then I can share those passwords so they don't have to see them. I never have to remember any. I don't really like Google stores a lot of them, but LastPass gives me the ability to share passwords with team members.
Yeah. I'm not free for that.
Yeah, it's free. So to wrap us up here, man, I've had a blast talking with you.
Absolutely.
I guess where does Travis go from here? Where is that freedom point for you guys? And we call it PIG, passive income goal. Like, where's that point for you? It's like, I'm there.
Is it a number or is it a life? I don't know. I think it's a life. I think it's I think it's a balance. I think it's something you're constantly evaluating and like totally passive. Like I don't see myself ever there. Like that's part of the reason when I cut back of doing anesthesia, it was, I immediately picked something up and it was just something that was different and something I wanted to do. And, so I don't see myself as totally wanting to go passive, completely passive. Like I want my life to be set up where, I think about 10 rentals ish is probably about the right number. We'll see when I get there. I'll probably change.
Yeah. Especially at 2%, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of, if you were to say number, like that's probably the goal right now. And, it's probably a low goal, but, that's the initial one. And then, man, I just want to wake up and not have to do things.
Yep.
I still do. I still will. Like, I mean, I get up every morning and work out at 5 a.m. and like even my days off, I still do that. So I realize I'm going to keep doing stuff.
Yeah, I'm in the world of NR, never retire. And even though I have passive stuff that's running, it's just a piece of the puzzle. And it's just the idea, like, I mean, now you're seeing me, I'm completely unplugged from the world and we can literally go anywhere whenever we want to. Now, is your wife, does she qualify for the real estate professional qualification for tax purposes?
So that would be our goal this year.
Yes. Come on with it. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
So and that's something like taxes is something that I should know more about, but I haven't dug into a ton. But I do know that part of things. So I need to dig in further. And I kind of asked my CPA about it and didn't get the greatest.
Does your CPA own rental properties?
Supposedly he does.
Okay.
He said he does, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know. There's times where I've not totally known if I've gotten everything I need to get out of that.
I can make a couple of suggestions for you. I'll send you an email and give you a couple of suggestions. So I'm not a certified public accountant. I'm not a tax attorney or anything like that. From my experience, seeing this is a great relationship when there is a high income earner who is married to someone who has the ability to qualify as a real estate professional. And those qualifications, I believe it's, is it 500 hours or 700 hours? Yeah, 750. Yeah. That sounds right. 750 hours, which is a lot, right? Or 50% of more than 50% of your time is spent on material involvement in real estate. So what the difference is now is this allows you to use passive losses to offset your active income. So now I can use my passive losses from real estate to offset my W-2 income. So it's a great way to cross that line, right? That excites me a lot. And the other way we talk about this too is people who invest in short terms. There is a process in that would allow you to reduce those hours to 100 in your if your material involvement in the short-term rental, which is, I believe, 3 days or less average stay, then only need 100 hours to offset the passive losses with my active income. So your accountant is going to be your friend. And what I love also, then we're getting into some higher level stuff, is cost segregation. These are these engineer studies that we can do to accelerate the depreciation. And man, then we get into depreciate, exchange, and die. And then, it's called kick the can down the road forever. And there's so much knowledge and benefit to that knowledge and being around the right people that makes that happen. So, man, I'm excited that our journeys started so long ago. And, we're still able to talk and learn from them and grow with them. So who's one, I guess, person or platform that you would suggest that the listeners would know or should look into, whether they're just getting started or maybe they're, taking that second one on, third one on, or hitting that target 10 doors? What's a platform you would suggest for everybody to know?
Mine might be a little bit different. For me, Paula Pant, Afford Anything. She has a podcast. And I've been listening. I really listened to her probably 5 years ago, I would say.
Paula Pant,
Afford Anything is her. Anything. Yeah. And I think especially, high income earners, we kind of get caught in this, the hamster wheel. I mean, people that, in our profession, they kind of get caught paycheck to paycheck, and it's quick and it's easy to get into that kind of that mindset. And, she really talks about how, like, set up your life for what you want and what you want to do. And, she was, I think, kind of has given me the energy to do what I want to do, to step back from working quite so much, to not buy a super nice car. My wife and I both drive 10-year-old Toyota Corollas. Mm-hmm. We live in a very modest house. But in that's given me freedom to do things that most of my coworkers or people in my position can't do. I can cut back quite a bit at work, and, life will be okay. And yeah, so that Paula Pant, she's kind of given me that, that education that sometimes the world tells you what you should do as opposed to you telling you what you should do.
Absolutely. That's great advice, man. And there's so many things that rattle around in my brain, when you mention of that, and that mindset shift of, finding that point of happiness and what that really means to you, and not what it means to the world. So super important. Man, thanks again for your time, Travis. I'm excited. Definitely keep in touch. And if we can help at all in that process to get you to that point, wherever it may be, definitely stay in touch. And if there's anybody out there listening, if you have any questions for Travis, or how to connect with that Paula Pant Afford Anything podcast, any questions for us here at Real Estate Mogul MD, hit us up with an email. It is info@physicianwealthsystems.com, info@physicianwealthsystems.com. And man, thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for another episode here on the Real Estate Mogul MD, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, Travis.
Thank you. Appreciate it.